Hey guys, it's Tim Miller from the Bulwark. I've got a crew of wrong people together right now because Donald Trump has made what I think is potentially his most pernicious policy announcement yet of the transition. It is horrifying to me, and we're going to get to that. But with me, I've got Jim Swift of the Bulwark, Andrew Egger of the Bulwark Morning Shots newsletter, Mona Charen, Beg to Differ podcast, Just Between Us podcast. Hello, all.
Hi.
How's it going?
We had some strong views in Slack about this announcement from President Trump, and so we decided to bring our argument to you. Here it is. This is a Trump bleat. The Republican Party will use its best efforts to eliminate daylight saving time. It's actually daylight savings time, but for whatever it's worth. Which has a small but strong constituency, but shouldn't. Daylight saving time is inconvenient and very costly to our nation. So that is the statement from Donald Trump. My view is strongly opposed, but it is very unusual that someone at the Bulwark agrees with Donald Trump. So why don't one of the agreeers chime in first? Maybe Mona, we can start with you.
So first of all, I just have to observe that it is shocking to ever agree with Donald Trump. That goes without saying.
It's disorienting.
Further, I would point out that it isn't up to him. It isn't up to the Trump administration. If this were to be enacted, it would have to be done through legislation. That's a little thing, old tradition we had around here, about the way we govern ourselves. That having been said, it doesn't make sense. If you're going to pick one or the other, daylight savings time or standard time to keep all year round, it makes more sense to keep standard time because daylight savings time all year round means that a bunch of people will not have a sunrise until 9 o'clock. And that's insane. So it's better to go with standard time all year round.
Maybe those people should be in a different time zone. Okay, we'll continue forth. Just, I guess, before we go around, is there anyone on the panel who likes the changing of times, who thinks we should stick with the changing of times? Mona, where are you? Would you prefer to stick or would you prefer permanent standards?
Okay, so I have a confession to make.
Okay.
Since we were having our argument on Slack, I went and read a few things. And now I'm wavering. I may be okay with continuing to change the clocks. Okay. Because it does compensate for the fact that we're in a fairly northern latitude, and that means that there's a certain amount of sunlight that we lack. Like Hawaii doesn't even do this time change thing because they are closer to the equator, and so they get a more even amount of sunlight during the year. And we're the ones who get this wide variation, and the changing of the clocks is a way to arrange to get the maximum amount of sunlight. So I don't know. I'm beginning to waver on my...
Spoken like someone that no longer is going to have small children in their life.
Arizona opts out too.
Okay, Andrew Egger, in the affirmative with Donald Trump. You and Donald Trump sitting in a tree. Standard time.
I have to start off by defending, I can't believe this, defending Donald Trump against both Mona and Tim a little bit because it is called daylight saving time. People say daylight savings time, but daylight saving time is actually correct, Tim Miller.
Is that correct?
It
really?
is
Okay.
true. Yes.
I throw myself on the mercy of the court.
Yeah. I don't know. People
remember Jonah Ryan.
I'm not
daylight
I'm not
saving, not savings,
when it
plural.
comes to English usage.
Is this a
but the other thing was, it's not like he said I'm going to do an executive order. I mean, this was a rallying cry. He said Republicans are going to be for this, right? So, yes, it would be a legislative thing. There have been some Republicans, by the way, like Senator Marco Rubio. This has been a big thing for him for a long time. Florida guy.
He's with me.
Wants to do permanent daylight saving. Bad. To get back to your question, that's bad. Since we're just yapping about this, and I think Jim and I are kind of simpatico. Perhaps we'll get to what you. But I basically see the status quo as the worst of the three possibilities. In particular, because I have young children. I do understand that the young children segment of your life is relatively short, and maybe we shouldn't be reorienting all of society around my needs just because I have toddlers. But I do have toddlers, and so while we're on the conversation, sure, I'm in team. The yank and the sleep schedules back and forth is only leads to tears. But I also think that if we were going to pick just one or the other, which I'd be in favor of, I would also prefer picking standard time, and not necessarily for the mean, there are a lot of like, when you pull Americans would prefer the later sunrise and the later sunset because that's more fun. Sleep scientists prefer the earlier sunrise and the earlier sunset because that's more healthy. I mostly come down on the like position of just being kind of cynical that we can life hack our way to this. Like we're not slaves of the clock, you know. Like if we were gonna switch to one or the other, just like accommodate your life to that. Like let school districts start at a slightly different time, maybe. Like the idea that like this artificial system for what numbers match what angle of the sun in the sky is supposed to have like this gigantic effect on how we all live our lives. I find it a little bit insulting to us as human beings. And so I think if we were gonna do anything, we should just get rid of this life hack that we've been working with so far and go back to what we were doing before.
Okay, having been humbled by having Donald Trump having correct grammar over me, I will now make my pitch and have Jim Swift, who in the green room revealed himself to be kind of more neutral really than anything. I'll have Jim Swift adjudicate our arguments and have not the final word, but the last word on the panel. But Andrew, you're completely wrong. And so are you, Mona. The current system that we have
Not the first time.
is insane. The current system where right as it's getting the darkest, we're like, you know what? We should turn the clocks back and have it be dark even earlier. Like right as seasonal affective disorder is kicking in, right as you're getting depressed, oh, sunlight later, oh, I can't go out and do anything in the evening, it's getting chilly, I'm vitamin D deficient. Right at that moment, the government has decided, no, you're going to be even more vitamin D deficient. We're taking an additional hour away from you in the evening, and we're going to put it to you in the morning when you're not...
Well...
Go ahead, John.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
the government can't determine how much sunlight there is. It can only determine like what the clocks are.
That is true.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. Anyway.
We don't have the technology.
And so it is flummoxing me. I always when I get into this fight, it's usually a fight, which you guys have never made, the school bus argument. It's usually a fight between the school bus waiting people and the people like me who would like to be able to spend time with their children outside after school. So the school bus waiting people are like, little Johnny is going to have to wait for the school bus in the dark. And I'm
Yes.
like, okay, well, so
Yeah.
That's not good.
Or little Johnny comes home from school and immediately you have nothing to do. You have to go inside. You put them in front of the TV. You rot their brain. It is nice to have post-school, post-work sunlight for which we can go and enjoy the outdoors in this one beautiful country. We can go hang out outside. Who needs sunlight at 6:30? Why do you want the sun rising as you're commuting into work in the morning like a drone? It's a
The bigger
horrific
social
use of
problem is
sunlight.
that post-school activities go too late to accommodate working parents. Kids should just be able to like get out of school at 3 and then do all the fun stuff.
Well,
Have their hours. We don't
They
need
get
to,
out
we don't
at
need to, we don't need to
2:30
change
here.
the clocks just to accommodate. This is a totally different thing. Just accommodate our silly universe. That's all. It's all built around us being slaves to the 9 to 5. I don't know what I'm.
Can I tell you what I learned in my
Please.
10 minutes of efforting this since we were on Slack?
Yeah.
In 1974, they actually did pass a law and instituted round the seasons daylight savings time.
Wonderful.
12 months out of the year, and people hated it.
And
it
kids
so
died.
much.
And that's why in Florida,
yeah.
of all places,
People
kids
are
died.
stupid. Who hated it? Where did this happen?
Everyone hated it. It was repealed like 383 to 16 in the House.
Yeah. Eight kids
if we've
died.
learned anything from the last
Wait.
year, it's that the people are always correct. Jim Swift, what say you?
Yeah, eight kids died in Florida, and that was a huge driver. It was popular when they first enacted it. And I ask, are we more serious now as a country than we were in the 70s? And I'd
Wait,
argue
can
no.
you say more? You keep eight kids
Eight
died.
deaths?
Of
Like what happened? What happened?
In an accident? Andrew, you're talking about like after school activities. Originally, daylight saving time revolved around after work activities. It was theater owners and driving range people, if you want to like put them in camps. You go to, this was before, Top Golf and driving ranges with night lights and everything. Driving range owners wanted the workday to end earlier so they could get more business. Movie theater owners wanted the workday to end so they would get people in theaters because no one wants to see a movie in the middle of the day. Now it tends to go around school schedules, right? So they repealed it. There was a bus accident. These kids died. There was an outrage. So if we were to repeal it or come up with some solution that doesn't involve changing it right now, something bad would happen, and the question is, would they change it back yet again?
This sounds idiotic. Well, how do we know that the bus accident had to do with the time change? Couldn't the bus accident have happened at any time? Why is this bus accident related directly to this time change?
Who knows why anybody relates anything?
Was the
to
person
anything.
blinded? I get frustrated by this, so I've had a long time strong view on this and post on social media all the time. The most common thing for the standard time dorks to reply to me is what Andrew referenced earlier. Tim, listen to the sleep scientists. Listen to the sleep scientists. Science has spoken on this. And I'm like, guys, I know that the Bulwark workplace for experts, but not everything is for science. Right? So, like, if the scientists told us that we all wear masks 24 hours a day, there would be fewer people would die of the cold and the flu. That is true. But we don't do that because we make life... sociability. We live in a society. Other things matter more than the domineering doctors' lobby wanting to maximize, the exact percentage of minute living.
Lobby?
Who is for this? Who are these scientists? Why should we trust them?
I don't even think it's doctors. It's specifically people who study sleep, which is like, is
that even a real thing?
Of a fraction of a fraction. Like why anybody? No, I totally agree. Why would we listen to these people?
Yeah, no, I would not.
With
I'm with you on the experts.
Okay.
Actually, I agree. We don't need to be guided by that. But we should think about the fact that we are artificially extending daylight hours in the summer when it's already light for a long time in the summer, and our natural rhythms are to get sleepy when it gets dark, and it screws everything up. Let's go with the more natural approach.
This is not my natural realm.
Nothing stops the states from adopting their own standards. Arizona has it.
That's even more
Navajo
confusing.
Nation has its own standard. Indiana
Used to.
And they still do, if you look at the map. All of Indiana
do?
is not in one time zone. They've shifted it. So, the states can change these things if they want. Florida, Marco Rubio's Florida, they could do it if they wanted. They could be unique.
Yeah, maybe we just need
that's
to
a
add
great
time zones.
federalism argument, Jim Swift.
Maybe we should just add time zones. So, because that's the other thing that happens is that we get these outlier situations where Florida, which kind of like peeks out into the Atlantic, wants that extra hour, and then Mona references like, what about the poor children of Spokane? Who wouldn't get a sunrise until 9/12, 2 days a year. And like, well, maybe
Spokane.
Maybe we should have a bonus time zone. Maybe we should,
See, that's what we should put Elon Musk in charge of. Like, forget the Doge stuff.
Just
We're gonna
reorganize
go
all
with
the time
a
zones.
whole rolling system. Get rid of this segmentation thing altogether. It's like a variable transmission or something where it's just like the two belts. Where like each individual person, we've all got phones in our pockets all the time. We're constantly geolocated. Just make it a sliding scale. The further west you go, the ever so slightly earlier or later it is. I don't even remember which one I'm doing.
So
Same with north and south. Yeah,
The
just get
Agar
every
household.
person their own time zone that
Apparently,
changes as they move
China
through.
only has one time zone for this enormous country.
We
I don't know
definitely-
how they make that work.
we definitely
Yeah,
don't
they're
want
living
to
in the
follow
past.
China.
We could do micro sovereignty, household time. The Agar household could have its own time zone. The Miller household.
I
the Charen
have thought
household.
about this. I almost refused to fall back this year. I was so upset. And now 2025 with Donald Trump presidency, can you imagine the depression? Where are the sleep scientists on my seasonal affective disorder? Andrew, are there any
See,
experts
if we
on that
didn't
could weigh
have
in?
daylight saving time, you wouldn't even know that you were losing out and having to turn your clock back, you see, and so you wouldn't suffer.
That is the worst thing, right? I mean, the worst thing is, like you said at the beginning, Tim, like the way it slams into you. And if it were just sort of the gradual creeping up,
Yes,
I think it would hurt a little less.
I want to
and
know when the
traveling-
earliest
traveling
sunrise is going to
toddlers.
be in your system. Because I'm also interested in that. Why,
4:40, something like that.
4:40, insane. That is insane. That is madness. I have the final word. We should never have a system with a 4:40 sunrise. That is ridiculous. I just heard my child walk in the door downstairs, and I only have 42 minutes of sunlight left because of the fucking fallback, because we're in standard time. So I'm going to go use those 42 minutes constructively. Thank you, everybody. Even
Say
though you're
hi to
wrong.
her.
Hey, well, Mona, Jim Swift, Andrew Egger, thanks for hanging us out with us, everybody. Little weekend content for you. We'll be seeing you back here soon. Subscribe to the feed. Peace.